Welcome, everyone. You've found Sanctuary's Coffee and Conversation Show. I'm Myrna Haskell, Executive Editor of Sanctuary Magazine. This is an online publication for women that empowers and inspires, and our focus is the arts, philanthropy, health and wellness, culture, and community. You can find us at sanctuary-magazine.com. This morning, my guest is Talene. She is an award-winning abstract artist and founder of Anderson Contemporary Center, where she supports artists with online exhibitions and has a fabulous brand new launch of a self-directed off-grid residency program for fine artists, poets, and writers. So we'll have a little bit of time, Talene, to talk about that later in the show. But welcome, and it's so great to have you back on Coffee and Conversation.
It's great to be with you, Myrna.
And I love talking about your artwork.
Oh,
And we're
thank
going to
you.
focus today on light, dimension, and connection. And boy, your works exude that big time. So I wanted to start off about talking about, light as an element that elicits different moods and emotions with the viewer. So if in part two, maybe, of that question, if you don't mind, I know that you're big on color and use of color too. So perhaps how light reflects differently with certain colors. If we could talk about that too, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to be with you, and thank you again. I always enjoy our time. So, in terms of your question and your thoughts, I'm really interested in space and place. And my favorite place, my all-time favorite place to be is sitting in a church or a big cathedral sanctuary. I love the quiet and the peace and the calm of the place. I love to look and observe the way light passes through the stained glass windows and how that color from the stained glass windows floods the space. It's just
Amazing, right?
magnificent. Yeah. And I love to just absorb the quiet and the beauty of the space itself. I tend to bring that feeling and the way that the light and the color dances through the space. I bring that back to my studio in a way that I'm able to sustain and resonate with that light therein. It makes me feel really whole and present. So I focus on light and beauty of color in my studio work. And I really strive for rich, dense color that transports one into another realm of existence. I enjoy playing with shapes and lines and rearranging dimensions. And my ultimate goal, I would love to work with others to transform spaces and places with my artwork.
Yes, and those really big fiberglass pieces
The
that you
big
have. And
ones.
it's for those of you out there listening that follow Sanctuary, I know you've seen a lot of the images we've put in social media where Talene has these tracks where she hangs her work in all different situations. And it does like just live and breathe dimension and like wow, bounce and huge color, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
they're life size, so the scale is really important too. It's the
yes,
scale is what
absolutely.
really transforms the space. So
So so you say you bring that back to the studio, do you, when you just a tiny bit on your process, like do you do any sort of sketching ahead or do you go right to the material and start painting?
I do sketch. I work on little note cards. And I have a little pack of pens or markers. So I'll sit in the space and, draw the light or draw the shadows, draw the shapes and lines that I see or that are, moving me it grabs me. So I record it on my drawings.
Yeah, and that's a good way to bring it back to the studio too, right?
Hmm.
Because you're
Yeah.
actually like experiencing it there and taking some things down in sketchwork. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Um, I also wanted to talk about how light is a catalyst to spiritual connection. Because I know, and for those who may not know, if you go to studiotalene.com and see Talene's website, she does a lot of these writings that are connected to her works. So you can see where she's coming from and her inspirations on the work. So I was hoping we could talk to, because I know a lot of your writings touch upon this spiritual connection and light.
So I really like to think about the nature of internal light. You know, internal light, I, I say to a lot to myself, internal light is the luminous core of our being. It's not just the light we see with our eyes, but what we feel in in those moments of clarity or courage or compassion. And I like to read, you know, the philosophers and the mystics across all traditions. And they, you know, they talk about the soul, the divine spirit, or the awakened mind. And, you know, in scientific terms too, it might be, you know, it might be likened to like a neural symphony of consciousness, where billions of
That's interesting.
neurons fire to create self-awareness and meaning. You know, and yet its essence, you know, internal light also defies the reduction. It's the warmth of a sudden insight. You know, I think about that flicker of joy when you see a child laughing. That's so fun. Or that steady glow of resolve amidst despair. So, you know, I think about internal light, you know, when I meet people you know, because it really manifests uniquely in each person.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. You know, for some, it's that creative fire, you know, that births art or innovation. You know, for others, it's a quiet radiance of empathy or the fierce clarity of purpose. And when I really think about those moments, those vivid moments of authenticity, you know, when we shed pretense and we align with our deepest truths, the spirit of that internal light, it's not static. It requires nurturing through reflection or gratitude and openness to growth, you know, like a flame, you know, on a candle or even the fire in your fireplace. It dims under neglect or it can flare brightly when you take good care of it. So it's important to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the flicker of light, by a fireplace. So many people, we talk about at Sanctuary all the time that people find sanctuary going to the water and things like that, but also through flame and
Yeah.
light. A lot of people love to sit, for instance, by a bonfire, right?
Yeah.
And just watch the dance,
The
of the
flicker of
fire.
the flames. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
so I can sort of picture that. And I love that you mentioned, a child laughing or, dancing through puddles or whatever. And that's the way that those experiences for you transfer to your work in the
Yeah.
way that you see them internally. And then
Yeah.
you use color and light from there. And I
Yeah.
know that we've talked about this before, but do you want to say anything about the reds and yellows since we're talking about flame and dancing? Is there anything, you briefly want to say about those colors or any other color that you happen to use?
Well, you know, right now I've been using a lot of blue.
Okay.
Because the summer skies here are just so beautiful, blue and the big fluffy clouds.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm using a lot of blue and white right now. You know, the blue is a very calm,
Yes,
um, spiritual color, and
it
just
is.
being able to look up into the sky, you know, and reference those blues from day to day, whether it's the morning, noon, or midnight, you know, those beautiful colors. And so I use a lot of my pigments I use come from a pigment mine in the south of France. And I've been picking up some gorgeous blue pigments that have been really fun to play with. So.
So are you saying then that depending on what you're, because I know you're also an environmentalist, you care very, very much about the environment and our human footprint on the environment. So does a lot of it come from what you're experiencing in the sky and weather and those things? Um, More so, would you say, than what you're feeling internally, or would you say it's kind of like both of those?
You know, I think it's probably a combination of the two, because my palette does change, depending on where I live. Um, And this particular location in Colorado, it's just I'm up in the mountains, so it's a lot of sky, and then long vistas, and valleys and hills and mountains. My palette when I lived in Europe and I lived in France, there was a lot more earth tones I used because if you've been to France, which I know you have, you see the buildings and the structures and even the soil and the dirt and the environment itself, there's a lot more earth tones. When I lived in Tennessee, I used a lot of greens because the Blue Ridge or the mountains, they're more of a teal, lots of teal and greens, and even in the wintertime there's a lot of green in Tennessee, and a lot of water also. So I think it really depends on where I live. And sometimes it'll be my mood, but not too much because my mood's pretty stable.
Yeah, you are. You're very zen person, I feel like,
Yeah,
which is great. It's really
yeah,
good, right? You don't want
yeah,
to be a
yeah.
stressed out person these days.
No, I
So, yeah.
meditate and I stay,
Right,
I
right.
take
Well,
good care.
I mean, we can see in the body of your work, you're different, they'll talk about someday, Tauline's blue period, her red period, this period.
Yeah,
Because yeah, I've seen that in your work, and I think that's what makes it exciting now.
yeah.
But you've really focused on the abstract, and so there's folks out there listening that might be abstract artists themselves, and there might be other art enthusiasts that don't have as much of an understanding of abstract art. And so I just wanted to talk in general, not necessarily about your work, but just as an abstract artist. Do you feel that abstract art kind of elicits a more intimate response? And the reason I ask that is it's not a bang in your face, here's the subject, here's what I'm trying to tell you in theme. It's more interpretive. And because of that, at least from my standpoint, I feel like people's personal experience is, I might be standing next to another person, for instance, looking at one of your works or another abstract piece, and get a total different reaction from it. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
I don't really, honestly, I don't see my work as abstract.
Okay.
And the way
That's in,
when I, in my earlier years of study, I was more realistic. I studied the figure a lot.
okay.
And then I guess I just came to a place where I decided that my work was becoming too easy and I needed to challenge myself. And so I look at my work as more of a call to shine inward and outward. I'm more interested in the spirit of the internal light and the connection, to call as a call to live with intention. And I think that translates into my work too. I think I'm creating more of a vocabulary that seems realistic to me. It asks, I believe I'm asking all of us to cultivate our inner radiance, not just for, self-importance, but really as a means to share ourselves generously. And I see my work in that way too. I'm sharing my inner light and making a connection with people. So it's a language that I'm creating through the abstraction. And
Yes, I love that. So
I'm really
it's your way of projecting your inner
connecting.
spirituality, you connecting with others through what you're feeling and radiating inside.
That's
I get
right.
that. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
And
Yeah, I
and
get that.
it's a way to share my luminosity, my light. Um, it's a way that I can connect with my surroundings and offer a visual recording of those whispers the whispers of life that say, you are enough. You're not alone. And I'm seeing my abstract work as a way to embrace this spirit of sight as a means to become a lighthouse for others, for ourselves. I really want to encourage my viewer that it's important to trust your inner light, however faint it may sometimes feel. Your inner light is enough to pierce through the gloom or the depression, if you will. It's to recognize that every connection we forge, every smile, every shared silence, it adds to the overall constellation of human light. In our world today, I believe our world is really yearning for meaning. And I think that that internal light within each of us is both our gift and our responsibility. I think that it's really important that we all tend to our inner light fiercely, share it boldly, and connect with others. Um, because when we embrace our radiance and our internal light, we find truth that we are all irrevocably one. So I guess in terms of abstraction, I don't see my work as abstract.
I get it. I get
Yeah,
it. I get it. You
yeah,
explained that very well.
yeah,
Can we talk about your work? 'Cause you have some amazing new series
yeah.
out there. We've got the Boom collection and the Gateway collection, right? And again, for those that follow Sanctuary, well, something's going out, I know, on this Sunday, but we've been sharing some of those pieces of Tallene. So whichever order, I know that they're interconnected, those two series. And I believe you do have them up together on your website. Am I right about that, Tallene?
That's right.
Okay, so I'm just going to let you go and tell listeners all about those two series.
So the gateway connection and the boom connection, they like you said, they go hand in hand. And I really have been thinking about, I did a collection on portals and some different collections on openings. So I was thinking door, and then I went to gateway, and then there's the boom. So a boom is the explosive outcome of a gateway opening, a surge of activity, innovation, or prosperity that shapes the world. If you look at what's happening in the world, there's booms and gateways going on right now. Booms are often unpredictable in their scope and impact as they amplify the potential of the gateway far beyond initial expectations. They can manifest as economic growth, cultural shifts, or technological revolutions, which we are seeing right now in a big way. But sometimes, those booms come with trade-offs, which includes disruption and inequality. The story of human progress is a story of gateways and booms, moments of breakthroughs that unleash waves of transformation. If you look back in history, you see that pattern that happens time and time again. In my opinion,
Cyclical. It goes.
yeah, those
Yeah.
moments, we need those moments. They're
Yeah.
important. Whether you view them as positive or negative, the booms and gateways are very important. Change is important. So the relationship between gateways and booms is not without tension. Booms often outpace society's ability to adapt, leading to perceptions of inequality or real inequality. There's a lot of disruption and a lot of unintended consequences. But gateways and booms, they're just inherently connected. They're linked. One needs the other. For both to happen, they have to be together.
So does the
Booms,
gateway happen before the boom, Or is it
They
ongoing? Gateway, boom, gateway, boom, gateway, boom.
they happen interconnectedly. There's an interplay. So it's not linear, like you've mentioned, it's cyclical. And each boom lays the groundwork for new gateways, and new gateways lead the groundwork for booms.
It's more
So
of an ongoing network.
yeah, and that's how nature works too. It's the natural environment works the same way.
Yeah.
There's destruction, and then there's growth and beauty, and then there's destruction, and then if you look at wildfires, there's this massive destruction that happens, but there's a reason for it. And the reason leads to extreme beauty and rebirth and renewal and renaissance and this amazing change. So, in my opinion, with what's going on in the world, it's just a part of life, and it's all good because it's going to lead into, growth, understanding, and renaissance.
And if people go into these major changes with more positivity
Yeah.
and not automatically thinking doom and gloom, or maybe, as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, tapping into your light so that, you as just that one person responds in a positive way.
Yeah, no fear. There's no
Yeah,
fear. No fear. It should be excitement and what's going to happen next and how am I going to grow as a individual, and how is my community and the local level going to grow and change and evolve, and so it should be faced with excitement and
yeah.
joy.
I like that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you have been working on some really exciting things. I mentioned the Pyramid Project, so I'm sure you want to talk a little bit about that. But you also, little birdie told me, and I think her name starts with the T, that she's working on a self-portrait. That sounds super, super
Yeah.
exciting too. So anything that you would like to share about those things so that our listeners can follow through them and watch the progress of these.
So I've been working on this idea. Um, I've been working on this really monolithic painting. It's called Clapping Trees, and it's a collection of 10 panels. It's going to be a two-sided painting, so it'll be built into a wall type of structure or shoji screen structure, and it's based off from Isaiah 55:12. And the quote is, "For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and the trees of the field shall clap their hands." So the painting itself is my version of a forest of trees. And I actually got my initial inspiration in Syracuse, New York, when I was visiting you. And I went to the trees in the forests in Syracuse and walked and observed. And I
Tully,
had a
can I
nice,
stop you for 1 second and ask you? I know I've seen some of the works that it said they were part of Clapping Trees. There were those individual panels that you kind of had together in different directions. Are you working on a piece that's just one super large piece, or are you talking about all of those works being presented in one space or room?
all of those works are one piece. So they'll
Okay.
be presented into in the room space.
So those
And it,
little snippets we've been seeing, if we've been watching your work, has
yeah,
been the ongoing journey of finishing that.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's a two-sided, so it's the way the light filters through the trees in the forests, the trees themselves, the ground within the forests.
And
And
there's a
so
lot of blues in there? Are there a lot of
on one side
blues?
is the blues, on the other side it's the pinks and the reds.
Oh, okay.
So it's the inside of the forest and the outside of the forest
Oh,
looking
interesting.
at the forest, right?
Okay.
Internal,
It's
external.
immersive.
Yes. And so at the same time, it's an installation, and I'm also working on a life-size self-portrait of myself as a tree walking. And the intention is that the sculpture, the bit large scale bronze, will be installed with that large scale group of paintings. And
How
yeah,
I can imagine that. I
yeah.
can't wait to see that.
And I'm in a pose like in a walking position, and there'll be birds on my shoulders and in my hair and flowers and all the foliage and leaves from the trees and so I've been gathering a lot of that natural material from where I live right now, and so it's
Okay.
very site specific,
Oh, I
the
love that.
sculpture.
And
Yeah.
it's life size.
It's all my measurements.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds incredible. Do you
Yeah.
have any guess on when it may be a window of being finished with this special project or
Well, my goal and my hope is that I should be able to get it to the foundry by the end of the year. It's
wow.
in,
Okay.
yeah, I'm putting I just finished the head, the body, the torso, and I'm working on the feet, the hands, and the legs right now.
So it's going to be cast in bronze.
Yep.
Wow.
And I'll
And
be
then with all of
posting,
those, with the clapping trees around it.
yeah.
Oh, that's going to be very special.
Yeah.
Very
And then I
special.
have little mini, tiny little sculptures that I'm working on too, that
Okay.
will enhance, the installation. So,
You're a busy lady.
yeah. Yeah.
Anything you wanted to say more about the pyramid project besides my very short introduction when we started today?
Well,
Your residency program?
yeah, I'm offering an opportunity for artists, writers, and poets. After I lived in art centers and museums and a monastery in Belgium. I've been in a lot of places. I lived in those places for 10 years. And I just thought, when I was in the midst of it, I thought, gosh, how fun would it be to run a little art center and offer, you know, the creative people an opportunity just for a small retreat or residency. So the current project that I'm working on is called the Pyramid, and it's an off-grid solar-powered unit on my ranch in southern Colorado up in the mountains. We're on 140 acres of natural beauty and incredible views of the southern tip of the Rocky Mountains. So we're in the canyon lands and the valleys. It's really, and we have a view off to the east of the plains. So you get these really dramatic views of the lightning and thunderstorms when we get weather. And that goes hand in hand. I'm working on an artsy gallery project to help promote artists, and I like to market and have fun. So it's just really a fun project. And just through that experience of all the years of residencies, the thing that I loved the most was meeting people from all over the world and, enjoying having conversations about creativity and ideas. So I just think it would be fun. And, if people want
And
more
certainly,
information,
yeah, and certainly people, whether you're a poet or a fine artist or, you're writing a memoir or whatever it is, when
yeah,
you have that solitude and the beauty around you, it kind
yeah,
of inspires creativity and aha moments, I think, because
yeah.
it's very self-reflecting when you're in a space like that.
Yeah, and not very many people have ever been, to a location where, I mean, we're on 140 acres and our nearest neighbor is, 75 miles or 75 acres away, and it takes, 30 minutes to get to the neighbor, but we're close enough to town, it down the mountain and down our road and through our ranch. We're on a private ranch in a gated community, and it's 20 minutes to the nearest town, it's a small town. It's Trinidad, Colorado, but it's big enough that it has, the grocery stores and, coffee shops and restaurants and things like that, and a nice little river and a river walk, and we have got a
Beautiful.
lake nearby for
It's
they
beautiful.
got
I've seen the pictures.
yeah,
Yeah.
great fishing nearby and
Yep.
hiking. So, it's a nice little spot if somebody would like to come.
We'll include that because if somebody is interested in hearing more about the Pyramid Project, that's linked directly from your homepage, I believe, and they can go and read all the information about applying, correct?
Yeah, it's on my website.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Tolene. It's always special to talk to you. I've had you on the program a few times now, and I appreciate you sharing your inspirations and some of your writings and everything with our listeners and our readers. I know they appreciate it too. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It was really fun and
Yeah, it
an
was. It
honor
always
to be
is.
with you.
It's
Yeah.
very natural with you, I have to say.
Yeah. We had a fun time.
Yeah. I'll close as I always do by wishing all of our listeners and our readers good health, happiness, and continued inspiration. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.